Moving on to Lebanon. In Lebanon, another Israeli-American plan is taking place. And this plan is disarm Hezbollah, disarm the Lebanese resistance. Ali Larijani, the senior security figure in the establishment in Iran, went for a visit to Lebanon, and he met with the president, he met with the prime minister, and he met with senior figures, and he met with also the Hezbollah leaders, and he met with the Amal leaders, which is one of the largest also ally to Hezbollah. He was told by the Lebanese president, no groups allowed in Lebanon, no armed groups are allowed in Lebanon. That's it. We need to hand the weapons to the state. He heard similar comments from the Lebanese prime minister as well, telling him that, I'm sorry, Mr. Larijani, all of the weapons need to be in the hands of the Lebanese state. All of a sudden, okay. What did Larijani respond? Larijani said, you need to appreciate the fact that you have a resistance that is protecting Lebanon, and Lebanon is sovereign. It's entitled to have its own decisions, and things should happen in coordination and agreement with both sides inside of Lebanon. At the end of the day, all of this rushed move to disarm the Palestinian resistance is coming from pressure, due to pressure from the American side and from the Israeli side, clearly, and that has been reported by multiple people and figures inside of Lebanon who are not necessarily aligned with the Lebanese resistance. Tom Barak is coming with demands and with deadlines to end of 2025 for the Lebanese resistance to hand its weapons. Then there was a response. Can Hezbollah actually hand in the weapons, and how and why? And is it going to be as a strategy with a joint defense strategy? No, the Lebanese government isn't saying as a part of a strategy or, we'll take care of it or we'll keep the secrecy or anything of the sort. They're just saying hand in the weapons. This is what's causing Hezbollah, of course, the other side, to be suspicious of this move. Why are you asking us to hand in the weapons? We told you we're willing to hand in the weapons to the state so long as there is a strategic coordination. There are negotiations between us on how these weapons are protected, how we are able to keep the deterrence of Lebanon in the face of the Israeli aggression. And also, is this now the time to talk about disarming when you have Israel occupying parts of Lebanon and attacking us and killing our people? Is this the priority? There was a speech coming from the Lebanese Secretary General, Sheikh Naim Qasim. Says the resistance will not surrender its weapons and we are confident of victory. He came out this time with one of the most straightforward answers. There are American-Israeli orders for the Lebanese authorities to hand the arms of the resistance to those sides. But the Lebanese prime minister is saying, no, they're lying. We're not actually going to hand in the weapons to Israel and the United States. We're just going to take the weapons. Take the weapons and do what with them exactly? Recycle them? Dismantle them and use them as renewable energy? What are you going to do with that? Clearly, there's something here that's backed by Israel and the United States. It's been obvious. But the statement that came from the Lebanese Hezbollah Secretary General spoke about plans also to start a civil war. That these people who are looking to take our weapons without any talk from us, without any strategy, without nothing in place, no talks about how things are going, all they want is to implement the demands of the American and Israeli sides so that Lebanon is stripped from every single strategic deterrence against the Israeli terrorists. And we're not going to hand in our weapons, and we don't want civil war, but if it is forced upon us, we are ready for it and we will be victorious. And it will basically be a war of martyrdom for us. So Israel's delusions, American delusions are over in Lebanon. It isn't going to work simply by the statements that came from the Lebanese Secretary General. Now, some people might not be aware of the situation in Lebanon and how it works exactly. Iran, not only did they offer Lebanon to arm the Lebanese army, they offered them electricity. They offered to help Lebanon in relation to its financial problems, but they haven't been allowed to do so. Why? Because of that same pressure coming from the United States and also from Israel. They don't want any influence coming from Iran. Influence, right? Even when Iran tries to help them with things to do with their infrastructure or with finance or anything of the sort. Why did Lebanon, or why did the Lebanese army refuse this help from Iran? And why did they also refuse Iran's proposal to arm them? Because if it's about the Lebanese army being powerful and having deterrence in the face of Israel, Iran told them, we will arm you directly. We will send you the weapons so that the Lebanese state can be powerful against the Israeli aggression. But still, the Lebanese authorities refused. Why did they refuse? It's because they are implementing an Israeli-American plan. The president, Joseph Aoun, Prime Minister Nawaf Salam, and all of the other corrupt leaders in the Lebanese establishment. And that is becoming evident the more time goes by, more and more evident. Why? Because how can you talk? Okay, let's make it straightforward. Anyone who asks to disarm, anyone who asks to disarm a resistance movement fighting an occupation while that occupation exists and still poses a threat is a traitor. It's very straightforward. Like the people who are asking the Palestinian resistance, anyone who, even if it's Palestinian, because the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank is saying that. Palestinian President Abu Mazen is saying that they need to disarm. He actually also went to Lebanon to sign an agreement to disarm the Lebanese movements inside of Lebanon. That was the Palestinian president. Imagine the level of corruption that's happening here and the level of depravity. How can you go and ask the only side that has any sort of capability in an already such an uneven equation, an uneven situation, to go and disarm in front of the most brutal and barbaric and abhorrent genocidal entity on earth murdering children? Isn't it your priority to apply pressure on the other side to disarm? Isn't it a priority to ask to inspect their suspicious nuclear program? Isn't it your priority to ask for peacekeeping process inside of the occupied Palestinian territories to make sure that a genocidal entity perpetrating a genocide, committing a genocide, as confirmed by the international courts with a wanted war criminal, wanted for justice, leading the country, is that not your priority? And is your priority to disarm the only movement standing up against them? And that doesn't mean you need to have an agreement on everything. But during the time of war, you don't open your mouth against the only side confronting this genocide, let alone ask to disarm them. So the people who want to disarm Lebanon are the same people who want to disarm the Palestinian side, by the way. And the same people who want Iran to also remove his strategic capabilities, only for Israel to enjoy the constant impunity and have what they say freedom of air travel, freedom of airstrikes, freedom of naval. They call that the freedom of navigation and freedom of movement. In Israel, they use this term. We must ensure that we have freedom of movement in the Lebanese airspace and in the Syrian airspace and over the whole world. To them, that's freedom of movement. And the other side, they need to be stripped of any point of power. And that was a message that was received very strongly internally in Lebanon, because now they're understanding that we're faced with total resistance here to disarm. But there are dangerous scenarios moving forward. What are these dangerous scenarios? Well, number one, the Lebanese authorities can start taking very stupid measures to try and enforce that through the armed forces. So politically motivated moves, and put in the army in the face of the Lebanese resistance. That would be a catastrophic situation. There are several reasons why this might fail. There might be an inner kind of opposition from within the Lebanese army, because many of them are the sons of Lebanon, and many of them are supporters of the resistance too. But some of them might actually accept, and that could lead Lebanon into another civil war. Another option would be, well, it can go ahead and they can have an understanding later on. The third option would be either as a result of the second option or in addition to it, an Israeli attack against Lebanon. Why? Because Israel would come and tell the Lebanese authorities, you did not adhere to the agreements that we had with you. Although, again, go and analyze those agreements that they had with them even, or resolution 1701 that they had in 2006, and the fact that they were speaking about arms south of the Litani River. And again, despite Israel having operations in that area, they don't know what's hidden or what's other strategic places and what have you. They know certain things that they found. But they would come and tell the Lebanese authorities, you failed in disarming Hezbollah, or you reached an understanding with Hezbollah that they're not going to be disarmed inside of Lebanon. Therefore, we're going to have more attacks against Lebanon. And then some of the same treacherous elements within the Lebanese authorities would blame that on the Lebanese resistance and tell them, look, because you refused to disarm, now we have a bigger war inside of Lebanon. But the sound of the fighting, the sound of the battlefield would be higher at that time than the sound of the politicians speaking, because the Lebanese resistance would be engaged again in combat with Israel. That at that point would be likely, or would very likely lead Iran to participate. Why? Because with the fall of the previous Syrian regime and the channel and the flow of arms more freely to Hezbollah, they might feel that they need to have direct support from them. In addition, Israel is already now preparing for a second campaign with Iran. More and more people are talking about the fact that Iran, they still have their strategic capabilities, and they still have the nuclear technology. As a matter of fact, figures close to the Iranian authorities, not in an official way, but close to the Iranian authorities, say that Iran, from an establishment perspective and from a capability perspective, if they want a nuclear weapon, they can convert anything they have to a nuclear weapon within an hour. And that's no surprise. Israel has been speaking about the fact that Iran was like on the verge of having a nuclear weapon since the 80s. That's not something new. But now this is something that's being confirmed more and more by the people who are close to the establishment in Iran. And also parliamentarians in Iran, members of parliament, are speaking about the fact that they need to change doctrine. That doctrine has to be changed simply because they're being faced with a constant threat that is against their existence as a country. You know, Israel will tomorrow tell you, well, that's the border of the greater Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu said the other day, he's very spiritually connected to the idea of the greater Israel. It already includes parts of Egypt, all of Lebanon, a large chunk of Syria, and Saudi Arabia and Iraq as well, all the way to the Gulf. All of that is problematic. And from an Iranian perspective, they would view that as a direct threat against them. Similar threats came from Iranian officials, by the way, that Israel is also planning for an operation, and next time, if they carry out an attack, our attack will be more intense than any previous attack that happened before against Israel.